What did I tell you guys about not letting things steal your happiness? The Bud Light thing with the trans activist Dylan Mulvaney. I get it 100%. And I also do not think it's been an example of cancel culture. I think it has been people saying, I'm not going to buy Bud Light. And that's a very powerful tool, and we've seen the impact that it's had on Bud Light just falling over themselves in desperation. Now, there's an update to this that I feel like is starting to border on whiny, cancel-y, culture-y, like you're adopting some things of the far left that I don't particularly like. And that is now people speaking out against Miller Lite. So Miller Lite had a commercial, and I don't think it's a particularly new commercial.
I think it came out in March.
Yeah,
it was just before the Bud Light one.
It was a video, and it has this actress in it, and I can't remember what show she's in, but it's actually a show I think is very funny. But it's being criticized now for being too woke. Here's a clip of it.
Here's a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever. From Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. Wow. Look at this wild. It's time beer made it up to women. So today, Miller Lite is on a mission to clean up not just their but the whole beer industry's Miller Lite has been scouring the internet for all this and buying it back so that they can turn it into good for women brewers.
Okay. It's just not an interesting commercial. And it's like they're taking all these like bikini-clad women drinking beer posters and shredding them down to be compost.
Yes.
I guess.
Then they're going to make beer out of it.
Cool. Okay. So it's just a dumb commercial to begin with. But apparently now this has now re-energized people who have already succeeded in just ruining Bud Light. Now they're like, what about this Miller Lite commercial that was already on the air? And then some folks were posting a picture of that actress next to Hillary Clinton, which I actually think, I'm trying to remember the show that she's in, but Hillary Clinton did an appearance on that show. And so I don't know if that's a still from that, but it's like, okay.
You're tying it to that.
To me, it's just too much. It's like, you just, at that point, it feels like you have to find a reason to be angry. Is it a dumb commercial? Sure.
Yeah.
But it is not on the same level of what happened with Dylan Mulvaney, mocking women in her Bud Light ad, almost making a parody of women, making a joke out of women. So I think it's just different. And like Dylan Mulvaney being a model for sports bras, it's like, come on, okay? But this is just like, okay, so you basically just don't like the ad.
Right. I think it's a little bit offensive to say to Farrah Fawcett, who was in that photo that she like tears down and calls terrible. It's a little bit offensive to her because I think she's pretty proud of that picture. And, I think you talked yesterday about being proud of your bikini body.
Right. It's nothing to be...
It doesn't have to be gross or disgusting pictures. I get it. You're saying you're sexualizing the beer, but that's not really how this is coming across. You're saying gross to women in bikinis.
Yeah, and I get it that the ad is just dumb.
It's
like, dumb. Who are you appealing to? And there's nothing wrong with being proud of your bikini body and using it to model for beer. I just don't think that making this round two of their fight against Bud Light, I just think it comes across as petty and a little leftist.
Well, and I think that the thing about
Leftist-ish.
Bud Light is I think that there's a lot of people in this country that have been frustrated with an agenda pushed on them. Yeah. And this was a way to push back. So it's not, Dylan, whatever, the trans, the can of beer with the trans person on it. I don't think it's really about that. It's about an agenda being pushed on people. And this was an effective way to finally be able to push back and get attention for it because people are pushing back in school board meetings. People are pushing back in other ways. And it's not getting the kind of attention that this is getting. And so I think this was just a way to push back on the trans agenda. And it's not to say you can't live the way you want to live. It's the agenda being pushed on their kids and them when they're just trying to drink a beer.
Right. I agree 100% on all that about Bud Light. I think the Miller Lite false outrage waters that down.
I agree.
Waters it down like a can of Bud Light.
Yep.
Because it's like, you guys were so successful with Bud Light, and you're right, it is an avenue where they could bring attention to the ridiculousness of this issue in a way that actually had an outcome that was actually effective. And now it's like, let's go back in time and figure out what other crappy beer commercials there were, and the woke commercials, and let's like resuscitate them.
And I think the idea on how to gauge if this works is to see what happens in the future. So don't go backwards.
Right.
Go forward. See if it continues
Yes.
to work. See if you feel like your voice is being heard by not drinking Bud Light, and think forward.
Yeah, and if 100%, because I'm trying to think when the anger at Bud Light started in earnest. Now, had Miller Lite released this ad after all this stuff with Bud Light, then it's like, are you kidding me? I could see it being different. But you're right. Why go back and like, now let's go find what other beer companies wronged us by being too woke?
Right.
Silly. Maintain your sanity, people, and pick your battles wisely.